Was she alive? I discovered my niece at my in-laws' house, who was supposed to have died in a car accident at the age of 5. In the portrait, she was supposed to be smiling, her cute face round, but she was so emaciated that I couldn't believe it was her unless I heard her voice. Help me. I want to see Mom. Her hands, seeking my help, were too feeble to grasp anything. From this moment, I came to know the darkness of my in-laws' house. I got married to John, who was 3 years my senior, at the age of 25 after meeting him at work. I was raised in the same area as the company I worked for, but John was born and raised in a much more rural area. When we went to inform our marriage, we were greeted by endless pastoral landscapes after hours of driving by my husband. And the biggest house in the area was John's family home, the most powerful lineage there. Well, it's a bit formal, but Kelly, you don't have to be so nervous. John smiled at me, but it was impossible not to be nervous. The house was a single-story house, imposing like a small castle, with a well-maintained large garden. At this moment, I was overwhelmed, realizing I was marrying into such an impressive family. But at the entrance, a kind-looking woman and a child welcomed me. Hello. The one who greeted me energetically was Mia, my brother-in-law's daughter, and next to her, smiling quietly, was Sarah, his wife. Nice to meet you. I accidentally bit my tongue, and Sarah said, "It's okay," comforting me. I heard she takes care of the house and the garden all by herself. We planted that tulip together. Mia pointed to a flower bed full of tulips, one of which was red. Mom loves flowers. Thanks to Mia and Sarah, I finally started to relax. What are you doing, chatting away at the entrance? At that moment, a man's angry shout came from the back of the house. Dad is calling, we need to go inside. John hurriedly went inside, and I quickly followed. Waiting in the living room were Sam, my father-in-law and brother-in-law. They looked me over and muttered, "So, this is her. What does that mean?" I was stunned. "This is Kelly, my fiancé," John said, prompting me to hastily bow. "Nice to meet you. Hey, bring some coffee quickly." But my greeting seemed unheard as my brother-in-law commanded Sarah, who hurriedly brought a tray. Such a slowpoke. Sam clicked his tongue annoyingly, and Sarah apologized, saying, "I'm sorry." I felt uncomfortable with this situation. "Kelly, you must be tired, sit on the sofa." John, seeing me standing the whole time, offered me a seat. "You should be more aware of your role as a woman. Get to the kitchen and start working." My father-in-law's words shocked me, but my husband intervened. "She's tired from the long trip, give her a break today. Kelly doesn't have to do it." Even so, I couldn't just not do anything. "I'll help Sarah in the kitchen," I said, preferring that to staying with my father-in-law and brother-in-law, and hurried to the kitchen. "Are you going to help too, Aunt Kelly?" "Yay." Mia, not just Sarah, was also preparing dinner, even though she was still young. "Mia, do you always help Mom?" "That's great. It's natural for girls to do so. While it's good for children to help out, it felt somewhat forced. So, that's how it is. And, Mom and I eat here together." The treatment of Sarah and Mia in this house didn't feel right to me. "Sarah, are you okay with this?" Sarah looked down and said, "I'm a remarried woman, and being with Mia is enough for me," with a sad look. Apparently, after her first husband cheated and they divorced, Sam, whom she knew, contacted her, and they got together. Life as a single mother was harsh in the countryside, and Sarah said she remarried, but her expression wasn't bright. I wonder if she's okay. It seems tough. But there was nothing I could do. After staying overnight, John and I left my in-laws' house the next day. "Kelly, come again." Mia, who had become quite close, waved at us energetically as we drove away. Next to her, Sarah also smiled and waved us off. At that time, I had no idea that this farewell would be our last. A few months later, one summer evening while we were having dinner, we got a call from Sam. After hanging up, John looked terribly somber. "What's wrong?" "Sarah and Mia, they died in a car accident." "You're kidding." I fought back tears, remembering the day we parted from them. "Then, we need to rush to your parents' house to help with the funeral. That's the thing." John hesitated, avoiding my gaze. "They died a week ago, and the funeral's already over." "What?" Since Sarah was a remarried spouse and Mia wasn't Sam's biological child, they didn't invite people. "No way." Right. It's too cruel. John looked down, tears spilling over. He was aware of his father and brother's treatment of Sarah and Mia and had subtly warned them, but was harshly told, stay out of it. He had shared this with me before. That night, we couldn't sleep, tormented by our inability to have done anything for Sarah and Mia. Half a year later, we were directly invited by my in-laws to come back for Christmas, to meet the neighbors. We've postponed our wedding after what happened, and now, with the gathering, the family insists on celebrating. John explained, seemingly cornered into agreeing by his father and brother. I'm sorry to ask, Kelly, but would you come with me? He asked, looking guilty. Despite my reservations, I agreed. But, celebrating after what happened to Sarah and Mia this summer, is that okay? John seemed to agree. It felt somewhat disrespectful, but if that's what my in-laws wanted, we couldn't say no. Hoping to fill a void, we headed to my in-laws. Arriving, it was bustling like a festival, leaving me dumbfounded. It seemed relatives and local folks had gathered. Sam noticed us and approached. Thanks for coming. This year was significant because Kelly became part of our family. I wanted to introduce you to everyone on this joyous occasion. I appreciate that, but given what happened with Sarah, it feels a bit awkward. Outside, the flower bed Sarah had cared for during my first visit was now neglected. Overrun with weeds. Observing Sam's demeanor, he showed no sadness, instead smiling cheerfully. Truth is, Sarah and I weren't getting along well. I was planning to divorce her, so I don't feel much sadness. His casual tone made me shiver. Despite the lack of love, his indifference to losing his wife and child was chilling. By the way, have you guys had any kids? We were unsuccessful, so we're counting on you. Sam slapped my back lightly and moved on to greet others. Unsuccessful? His words eerily lingered, prompting me to shake the thought off. Feeling a chill, my father-in-law approached with a stern face. Thank you for inviting us. You still have that boyish haircut? Women should grow their hair out. He interrupted, glaring at me. My hair barely reached my shoulders. Reminded of his fixed ideas about women from my first marriage greeting. He even took the glass I was about to drink from. Show more awareness as a woman. Cooking and cleaning. Preparing drinks is a wife's duty. Once again treated like a servant without a proper welcome, I was dumped into the kitchen. John, noticing my distress, came to check on me but was quickly summoned back by his father for drinks. In the kitchen, relatives who seemed to have been helping gave me cold looks and left without greeting, saying, the main house's wife finally shows up. So this is how the holiday ends. I slogged through the mountain of dishes alone, disheartened. It seemed they just needed a maid, not a celebration. Sarah must have gone through this every year. I had braced myself for something like this. Yet, helping alongside Sarah and Mia might have made it bearable. Remembering their smiles made me feel lonelier. Hours passed, the family and relatives started heading out for a walk. Let's get ready. As I rushed out of the kitchen, my father-in-law glared. The wife's job is to clean and prepare drinks. Stay and work when we return to drink again. That's unfair to Kelly. I'll stay and help her. John intervened, but his father scoffed. Is your wife the kind of person who makes men do housework? Intimidated by my father-in-law, John visibly shrunk. It's okay. Go on without worrying about me. Reluctantly, I answered, and John looked at me with an apologetic gaze. I'll be back in an hour. Don't do anything extra, just what you were told. Confused about what he meant by anything extra, I asked, huh? My father-in-law then pointed towards a room I had never entered. Don't ever go into that room. You're still an outsider to me. Leaving that behind, they headed off to the walk. Alone in the now quiet house, I sighed deeply and began preparing for the after-party. The journey here was long, and since arriving, I haven't had a moment's rest from housework, becoming utterly exhausted, but I couldn't rest yet. While washing dishes, drowsily, I accidentally let a plate slip from my grasp. The sound of the plate shattering echoed in the silent room. Oh no! If my father-in-law found out I broke a plate, I couldn't imagine what he'd say. Panicking, I couldn't find the vacuum cleaner anywhere and started opening doors and closets in a frenzy. Before I knew it, I was standing in front of the room I was told not to enter. It's just to look for the vacuum, right? I'll get in more trouble if I don't clean this up. With that thought, I braced myself and opened the door. Right inside, I found the vacuum cleaner leaning against the wall and quickly grabbed it. Thank goodness, looks like I can clean this up without getting caught. Relieved, I glanced around the empty room. Why am I forbidden to enter here? Pondering the purpose of my father-in-law's command, I suddenly heard a strange noise.
What? What's that?
The thought that it might be haunted made me freeze, but then I heard it again. The sound resembled something heavy being dragged. In the previously silent space, the sound seemed unnaturally loud, appearing to come from the ceiling. Maybe an animal got into the attic. While I'd prefer an animal to a ghost, I couldn't help but become curious about whatever was in the attic.
It's okay. There's no such thing as ghosts.
Driven more by curiosity than fear, I found stairs leading to the attic inside a sliding door and cautiously climbed up. The scene I discovered far exceeded my imagination.
A child. And chained up?
In the dark attic covered in cobwebs, a small girl crouched, chained in such a way she couldn't escape. I couldn't tell if what I was seeing was a ghost or reality, and I panicked. I'm hungry. The voice sounded familiar. My heart pounding, I rushed over and brushed away her long bangs, gasping.
Mia, is that you? You're alive?
The child was Mia, who was supposed to have died in an accident with Sarah half a year ago. She looked faintly at me. Though emaciated, there was no mistaking it was her.
It's Kelly, do you remember me?
Kelly? Can you help me? I want to see Mom. The chain was hung high up, out of reach for a 5-year-old. I unhooked it and carried her to the kitchen. After making some porridge and feeding it to her slowly, color started returning to Mia's cheeks.
Why were you in such a place?
There's no way she could have ended up there by accident.
Where's Mom? I want to see her.
Mia suddenly started crying, which felt odd. I cried so much, but Mom never came once. Is Mom okay? It was as if she didn't know about Sarah's accident.
Mia, do you not know? Know what?
Unable to tell her the truth, I stumbled over my words and quickly changed the subject.
Were you always in the dark?
Yeah. Uncle and Grandpa locked me up. I was scared. Uncle referred to Sam, Sarah's husband after remarrying, who Mia never called Dad. Why would they do something so terrible? Whatever their intentions, it wasn't safe to stay. I wrapped Mia in a blanket and hid her in the back seat of my car. Kelly, are Mom's flowers in the garden blooming? While being carried away, a now drowsy Mia mumbled.
In Mom's garden, there was one red tulip. She said there's something important there.
Huh? About to drive off, Mia's words stopped me in my tracks.
If something scary happens, pass it to Kelly and John, Mom said.
The garden was pitch dark, and the withered flower bed left no trace of what once grew there. The tulips. I remember they were blooming over there. As I pondered what to do, my father-in-law and the others returned. Why are you outside? Is the food ready?
We ran out of drinks completely, so I was about to go buy some.
I hastily made up an excuse, then forcefully grabbed John's hand and headed to the car.
I don't know any stores around here, so could you guide me? Okay, you drive then.
John, perhaps sensing something was up, obediently got in the car with me. My brother-in-law tried to stop us, saying, "There's no store open at this hour," but I skillfully avoided him and drove off.
What happened?
John seemed to think I had bolted because I couldn't stand doing housework anymore. That's when I told him everything about Mia.
I can't believe such a thing has happened.
Naturally, he was shocked, sobering up instantly. Glancing back at Mia, who was now sleeping soundly under the blanket in the back seat, he said,
So Mia not knowing her mom has died means the story about them getting into a car accident together was a lie.
Seems like it. Even piecing together the little information we had, we couldn't understand why this had happened. So, I made up my mind.
After I take Mia to a safe place, I'll go back to my in-laws' house to look for what Sarah hid. It's dangerous to go back. I'll go. No, John, you probably don't know where it is.
Indeed, it might be dangerous, but I had to know what she wanted to tell us and my husband. John, please take care of Mia and then call the police. He seemed to be pondering my request.
There's someone else I need to inform first.
That would be better. He seemed to be convincing himself, pulling out his phone to search for that person's number. After driving for over an hour into town, I found a hotel. I put Mia to bed, planning to head back to my in-laws right away, but ended up lying down beside her, and before I knew it, it was morning.
Good morning. Did you get some rest? So, you're really going back home?
John's gentle expression almost softened my resolve, but I nodded.
I have to clear Sarah's name. But it would be better if we went together, wouldn't it? That would put Mia in danger.
I understood his feelings, but I couldn't compromise on this. I stroked Mia's head, still fast asleep, grabbed the car keys, and stood up. As I approached my in-laws, I hid the car in the shadow of some trees and walked the rest of the way. It was still early morning, so I reached my in-laws without encountering anyone. I began digging up the withered flower bed, my fingers quickly growing numb from the cold. Although I remembered the location of the tulip bed, I couldn't recall the exact spot of the red flower, making it hard to find anything. Eventually, my fingers started bleeding, but I gritted my teeth and endured. What could possibly be in this flower bed? The thing Sarah said to show us, what could it be?
Sarah, it really was an accident, right?
The story, as if anticipating something would happen, gave me a bad feeling.
It was an accident. That's settled, isn't it?
Suddenly, I heard my brother-in-law's voice and jumped. Turning around, I saw Sam with a colder smile than the winter sky.
Surprised me yesterday. How far did you go to buy drinks?
Sorry.
We ran out of gas on the way back.
I tried to think of a way out, but my brother-in-law sneered.
Not really, you had a lot of luggage, didn't you? Like, for one child?
It was clear he knew about Mia's rescue. Lost for words, Sam slowly approached me.
That child isn't related to me by blood. So, I thought to hide her and pretend she never existed. What are you talking about? So, a child with no right to inherit this house is just in the way.
His smile chilled me to the bone.
How could you do such a thing to Mia? Someone will find out, and you won't get away with it.
Right.
That's why no one knows. Those who find out can just be hidden away.
Sam reached out to grab me, but I was so terrified I collapsed into the flower bed, unable to stand.
Stay away!
Instinctively, I grabbed a handful of soil and threw it at him, which made him flinch slightly. As I reached for more soil, I found something buried. It was a diary wrapped in a plastic bag. Sarah's name was written on the cover.
This is it!
Sam noticed it too and tried to snatch it from me, but I held it tightly against my chest, fighting hard to keep it from being taken. Despite my efforts, I couldn't match the strength of a man and was beaten repeatedly, struggling to stay conscious. Just then, a sharp stop rang out, and turning around, I saw a burly man glaring at Sam, with John kneeling beside him, gasping for breath.
Why are you here?
The man demanded, "Give me back my daughter, Mia," from Sam, grabbing him by the collar and dragging him. Shockingly, this man was Mia's biological father. John had told me last night that he was an old friend of John's who had learned about Sarah's death by chance and had been in touch since then. Mia's father claimed our divorce was a setup. Sarah had believed her husband was having an affair, and he had been led to believe the same about her, leading to their divorce due to these misunderstandings. However, upon further investigation, the evidence of the affair shown to them was all fabricated, orchestrated by Sam. But by the time the truth was uncovered, they were told Sarah and Mia had already passed away. The man pulled Sam away from me and confronted him. "Is it true you've been treating my child horribly?"
Well, what can you say without evidence?
Sam remained unfazed, probably having quickly cleaned up the attic where Mia had been hidden.
There's Mia's testimony. Kids' words aren't reliable. How do you plan to catch me?
Sam smirked confidently until Mia's father silently pulled something from his breast pocket.
Wait, you're a cop?
Though briefly taken aback by the police badge, Sam retorted.
I have connections in this region's police force. I can get you fired.
However, the man remained completely unfazed.
Is that all right with you?
But the man was unfazed. I rank higher than that. I usually keep it under wraps due to investigative reasons, he replied in a low voice, making Sam tremble. And you intentionally caused the divorce between me and Sarah, right? He continued, causing Sam's complexion to change. Finally handcuffed, Sam glared at me.
All your fault for meddling. Ever think of reflecting? Plus, the accident that killed Sarah was orchestrated by you, right?
I had seen Sarah's diary, where she wrote, He wants my insurance money and told me to go to the other world, hurriedly hiding it after Sam's threat. The diary indicated Sarah tried to escape with Mia during her capture, but it seemed unsuccessful.
Reading through this might reveal more evidence. Please, I don't want to get caught. Help me.
To my surprise, Sam suddenly began begging. Then, my father-in-law, alerted by the commotion, came out shouting, "What's all this noise?" As usual, he was belligerent, but Sam pointed at him.
I just followed Dad's example. He did the same to Mom.
His sudden confession turned my father-in-law's face red with anger. Don't talk nonsense.
It was all Dad's instructions for what happened to Sarah and Mia. He's the one at fault.
Amidst their argument, Mia's father stated, "You'll be coming to the police station as well," and shoved him into the car without discussion. Never thought it'd come to this. As the car drove off with both men inside, I sat down, dumbfounded. John comforted me, "You did well." Later, I was informed that Sam was officially arrested, and both the mistreatment of Mia and Sarah's case would be prosecuted. It also came to light that the supposed natural death of my mother-in-law was actually orchestrated by my father-in-law. Now, both men will likely never leave prison, and I hope they forever regret their actions in their dark cells. Mia was taken in by her father and now lives with her grandparents in their family home. When I last saw Mia, she smiled at me just like the first time we met.
When Kelly Aunt saved me, I was so happy. Thank you.
As I wiped away her farewell tears, they felt incredibly warm. I wish for this child, who suffered under a twisted tradition, to find greater happiness than anyone else. John and I continued to wave at the car carrying Mia and her father until it was out of sight.